The gavel fell, and a mother's world shattered. Her son, a bright-eyed 17-year-old boy, was being buried alive by the system. The judge saw a throwaway thug. The prosecutor saw an easy win, but they were all blind. They didn't see the trap they were walking into, because the quiet teenager in the oversized orange jumpsuit wasn't a teenager at all. A mother collapsing in a courtroom, a judge's stern, bored face, a black teenager with old, tired eyes, hands cupped behind his back. Meet Judge Harold Henderson, a man so tough on crime he'd sentence a jaywalker to life if he could. His courtroom wasn't a place of justice. It was his personal throne room, and he loved the sound of his own gavel. Judge Henderson smirking as he senses a young person, clearly enjoying his power. And meet Jamal Jones. According to the arrest report, he was a 17-year-old high school dropout, caught red-handed in a stolen car with a loaded gun, an open and shut case for the overworked public defender, a surefire conviction for the ambitious prosecutor, Olivia Cruz. But Jamal had a secret. The haunted look in his eyes wasn't from street life. It was from seeing things no teenager should ever see. He sat perfectly still in the courtroom, not with fear, but with the patience of a predator. He was waiting, and his time was almost up. The state has proven its case beyond a reasonable doubt. Prosecutor Cruz declared, pacing in front of the jury, "This young man is a danger to our community. A life of crime starts young, and it must end here today." The public defender's weak objections were brushed aside by Judge Henderson like gnats. Finally, the moment came. "Jamal Jones, stand." The judge boomed. "You've been found guilty on all counts. The law mandates a severe sentence to make an example out of those who threaten our safety." He peered down over his glasses, a cruel smile playing on his lips. "I sentence you to 50 years in a maximum security prison. May you reflect on your choices." The mother's wail filled the room. "No, not my baby." But Jamal didn't flinch. He didn't cry. He slowly raised his cuffed hands. "Your Honor," he said, his voice calm, deep and steady, a voice that carried an authority that silenced a room. "Before you remand me, I believe you are required to ask if I have anything to say." Judge Henderson rolled his eyes. "Spare us the speech, boy." "It's not a speech," Jamal said. "It's a question of procedure. And you, of all people, should respect procedure." The audacity of the comment stunned the courtroom. Prosecutor Cruz laughed. "Your Honor, the defendant is wasting the court's time." But Jamal turned his gaze to her. "Ms. Cruz, you entered into evidence a Glock 19, serial number BMPX 123, correct?" Cruz frowned. "Yes." "And you testified it was found under the driver's seat?" "That's right." Jamal nodded slowly. "Interesting, because that gun was reported stolen 6 months ago from an evidence locker at the 12th precinct, the same precinct where Officer Miller, the arresting officer, works." A murmur rippled through the room. Officer Miller, sitting in the back, shifted uncomfortably. Jamal continued, his eyes now locking on Judge Henderson. "Your Honor, you've sentenced me based on fabricated evidence. But the real crime isn't the car theft. It's the corruption in this very courthouse. And my name isn't Jamal Jones." He turned to face the courtroom, his posture straightening, the childish slouch gone. "My name is Marcus Thorne, and I'm an undercover agent for the FBI's Public Integrity Unit." For a full 10 seconds, the only sound was a hum of the fluorescent lights. Judge Henderson's mouth hung open. Prosecutor Cruz's face drained of all blood. Marcus Thorne reached into the neck of his orange jumpsuit and pulled out a thin, black chain. Dangling from it was a small, metallic FBI badge. "The 50-year sentence you just handed down, Judge Henderson," Marcus said, his voice cold as steel, "was for the real criminal you've been protecting." He turned his icy gaze toward Officer Miller, who was now edging toward the door. "And the operation," Marcus said, "is officially over." As he spoke, the main courtroom doors burst open. Sound. The courtroom doors slamming open against the walls. Then, the sound of dozens of boots marching in unison. Judge Henderson's gavel slipping from his hand and clattering to the floor. Officer Miller froze in terror. Marcus Thorne, standing tall, a faint smile on his lips. He posed as a teen to catch a corrupt system. They just sentenced their own accomplice. And the man who passed the sentence is about to become the defendant. The cocking of rifles, the stamp of tactical boots. The doors fly open. The trap is sprung. The teenager is an FBI agent. And the real criminals are wearing badges and robes. The 50-year sentence just became a death warrant for the corrupt system that passed it. FBI HRT agents in body armor flooding the courtroom. Judge Henderson's face white with terror. The courtroom erupted into chaos. Spectators screamed. Reporters lunged for their cameras. But the FBI agents moved with chilling precision, securing every exit. The lead agent, a woman with sharp eyes and a steely voice, marched straight to the bench. Judge Harold Henderson, you're under arrest for conspiracy to obstruct justice, bribery, and racketeering. As she spoke, two other agents approached prosecutor Olivia Cruz, reading her rights. Officer Miller made a desperate break for a side door, but was tackled by two more agents before he took 3 steps. Marcus Thorne stood calmly as an agent removed his handcuffs. He rubbed his wrists, his eyes never leaving Henderson. The gun, Marcus said, his voice cutting through the noise. It was the key. Only someone inside the evidence chain could have planted it. You thought you were getting a dangerous kid off the streets. You were actually handing me the evidence to put you all away. In a secure room downstairs, Henderson sputtered and raged. This is outrageous. I'm a judge. You can't do this. Marcus sat across from him, now wearing a simple FBI windbreaker. We've been investigating you for 18 months, Harold. The drop cases, the suspiciously light sentences for certain defendants, the wire transfers to an offshore account. He slid a photo across the table. It showed Henderson on a luxurious yacht with a known crime boss. The fishing trip you reported last summer? We have audio. Henderson's bluster deflated like a punctured balloon. He was cornered. Meanwhile, in another room, Prosecutor Cruz was already cracking. It was Henderson, she cried. He pressured me. He said if I didn't get a conviction in this case, he'd ruin my career. But Marcus knew this was bigger than one corrupt judge and a dirty prosecutor. Officer Miller was the linchpin. Miller, however, wasn't talking. He sat in silence, a smug look on his face. I want a lawyer, he repeated. That's when Marcus's partner, Agent Davis, entered with a file. We found it, Davis said. The money trail. The bribes didn't stop with Henderson. They went higher. He opened the file. It contained bank statements showing large payments from a shell company to a city official. The final recipient? City Councilman James Rhodes, the tough-on-crime politician who had appointed Henderson to the bench. This wasn't just a legal problem. It was a political machine built on putting innocent people in prison to maintain power. As Marcus reviewed the file, his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Stop digging. Or, the mother gets it. A photo followed. It was Marcus's real mother, leaving her apartment building. The photo was time-stamped from just 20 minutes ago. The smug look on Officer Miller's face made sense. He wasn't just a dirty cop. He was a soldier in a much larger, more dangerous organization. And they were making their move. Marcus's blood ran cold. His undercover work had just put his family in the crosshairs. He stormed back into the interrogation room, where Miller was being held. Who was the text from? Marcus demanded, slamming his phone on the table. Miller just smiled. You're in over your head, agent. You took down the small fish. But the shark? You haven't even seen him yet. A forensic tech rushed into the room. Sir, we found something on Miller's phone before it was wiped. A single encrypted email. The subject line was Project Longbow. Marcus's heart skipped a beat. Project Longbow was the code name for a deep-cover FBI operation investigating political corruption at the highest levels of the state government. It was classified, top secret. How did a dirty beat cop know about it? The tech continued. The email was sent from a server registered to the state attorney general's office. The room went silent. The corruption went straight to the top of the state's law enforcement. The very people tasked with stopping crime were running it. Marcus immediately called his FBI superior, Deputy Director Roberts, to report the breach. Sir, Project Longbow is compromised. The Attorney General's office is involved. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Too long. Marcus, Roberts finally said, his voice strangely calm. Stand down. Bring Henderson Cruz and Miller to federal holding. But do not mention Project Longbow to anyone. Is that clear? The order felt wrong. Why stand down when the conspiracy went deeper? Sir, with all due respect, my mother's safety. I'll handle your mother's security personally, Roberts interrupted. This is too big now. Follow your orders, Agent. The line went dead. Marcus stood frozen. His own boss was shutting him down. The system he trusted was closing ranks. He looked at Miller, who was now grinning from ear to ear. Told you, Miller whispered. You can't trust anyone. Marcus's face, a mask of confusion and betrayal. Miller's smug, knowing grin. The FBI badge on Marcus's waist looking suddenly tarnished. He exposed a corrupt judge. He uncovered the dirty cop. But the man who gave him his orders is part of the conspiracy. A sharp, anxious breath, then the deafening roar of silence. A low, paranoid syndrome begins. The order is a betrayal. The system is a snake eating its own tail. Agent Marcus Thorne is trapped in a web where his badge is a target and his boss is a spider. The only way out is to go deeper into the darkness. Marcus's FBI badge lie on a table. The reflection shows Deputy Director Roberts' face distorted. Every fiber of Marcus's training screamed to follow orders. But every instinct screamed that Deputy Director Roberts was leading him into a trap. He made a choice, a dangerous one. While his team processed the arrests, Marcus slipped away. He used a burner phone to call the one person he trusted implicitly. Sarah, his tech analyst, operating from a clandestine off-the-books location. Sarah, it's me. Roberts is compromised. Project Longbow is blown. I need you to run a ghost trace on all of Roberts' communications for the last 48 hours. And I need a safe house for my mother. Now, no official channels. Sarah's voice was calm but urgent. On it. Your mother is already being moved by my team. Marcus, be careful. If Roberts is dirty, you have no one. Minutes later, Sarah called back, her voice tight. Marcus, you were right. Roberts received an encrypted call an hour before your operation from a number linked to a shell corporation called Palace Holdings, the same corporation that paid Councilman Rhodes. The pieces were connecting, forming a terrifying picture. But that's not all, Sarah continued. I dug deeper into Project Longbow. The investigation wasn't just about political corruption. It was about something called the guarantee. It's a secret pact among judges, prosecutors, and law enforcement to ensure convictions for a price. They target specific individuals to meet quotas and secure funding. You weren't just a random assignment, Marcus. They chose you. The revelation hit him like a physical blow. His undercover identity, Jamal Jones, had been selected by the very criminals he was supposed to be investigating. He was a lamb led to the slaughter to strengthen their system. Suddenly, Marcus's official FBI phone buzzed. A text from Roberts. Where are you? The transport for the prisoners is here. Your presence is required. It was a summons to a trap. Marcus texted back. En route. Had a personal emergency. He needed to see the transport. He needed proof. He parked a block away from the courthouse's secure garage and watched through binoculars. He saw Henderson Cruz and Miller being let out in shackles. But they weren't put into a standard FBI prisoner van. They were loaded into a sleek, unmarked black SUV with tinted windows, the kind used by private security firms. As the SUV pulled away, Marcus noted the license plate. He relayed it to Sarah. Running it now. Sarah's keyboard clacked furiously. It's registered to Palace Holdings. They weren't being taken to a federal facility. They were being taken to their handlers, to be silenced or rewarded. Marcus knew he had to move. He had to get to Roberts before Roberts got to him. He drove to the FBI field office, using a service entrance key card Sarah hadn't yet deactivated. He found Roberts alone in his corner office, staring out at the city lights. "You disobeyed a direct order, Agent," Roberts said without turning around. "The order was illegal, sir," Marcus said, his hand resting near his weapon. "The prisoners were just picked up by Palace Holdings." "Care to explain?" Roberts turned slowly. He didn't look angry. He looked tired. "Resigned. You think it's as simple as good guys and bad guys, Marcus? This system, it's a machine. And sometimes you have to feed it to keep it from eating the whole city. The guarantee keeps the stats up. The funding flows. We make tough choices." "You mean you sacrifice innocent people?" Marcus spat. "Innocent?" Roberts chuckled darkly. "There are no innocents. Just players and pawns. You were supposed to be a pawn." As Roberts spoke, Marcus saw his hand inch toward a panic button under his desk. There was no more time. In one fluid motion, Marcus drew his weapon. "Don't!" But Roberts was fast. He slammed the button. A deafening alarm blared through the building. "Agent Thorne has gone rogue." Roberts yelled into his intercom. "He's armed and dangerous." Marcus had seconds before a SWAT team descended. He bolted from the office, sprinting down corridors he knew by heart. He could hear shouts and running footsteps behind him. He burst out into a back alley, his mind racing. He was now a fugitive from the very organization he'd dedicated his life to. His burner phone vibrated. "Sarah, Marcus, I've got a location on the black SUV. It's heading to a private airfield outside the city. Hangar 12B. But there's more. I just decrypted a file from Roberts' computer. It's a manifest for a shipment going out tonight." Marcus crouched behind a dumpster, catching his breath. "What kind of shipment?" "People, Marcus. It's a list of names. Dozens of them. People who were convicted under the guarantee. It's not just about stats. They're being transported." The line crackled, and a new, distorted voice came over the phone. A voice that was not Sarah's. "Agent Thorne," the voice hissed. "You're too late. The cargo is already loading. But there's one empty seat on the plane. We're saving it for you." The line went dead. Sound. The screech of tires as a black Benz speeds into the alley. The sound of a van door sliding open. Marcus, trapped in the alley, turning to face the headlights of the van. The side door is open, revealing armed silhouettes inside. He thought it was about corruption. He thought it was about power. But the truth is far more monstrous. And he's next on the list. A van door slams shut. Tires screech. Then the roar of a jet engine. A frantic, pounding heartbeat soundtrack begins. Trapped in a van, hunted by his own agency. The conspiracy is a human trafficking ring disguised as justice. Agent Marcus Thorne is no longer a cop. He's cargo. Marcus, blindfolded and bound, thrown into the back of the van, the silhouette of a private jet on a dark tarmac. The van ride was a nightmare of turns and stops. Marcus's mind raced, mapping the route. They were heading to the airfield. His captors didn't speak. Professionals. When the van stopped, he was dragged out. The cold night air hit his face. He could hear the distinct whine of a jet engine powering up. The blindfold was ripped off. He stood on the tarmac in front of Hangar 12B. The black SUV was there. So was a private jet, its stairs down. Councilman Rhodes stood at the bottom, smiling. "Agent Thorne, so glad you could join the flight. Your skills will be very valuable to our overseas partners." This was bigger than he imagined. They weren't just selling convicts as labor. They were selling skilled individuals, wrongfully convicted engineers, doctors, scientists, to the highest bidder, a twisted, privatized extradition. As they forced Marcus toward the stairs, he made his move. He dropped his weight, twisting out of his captor's grip, and slammed his elbow into the man's throat. Chaos erupted. Shouts. A gunshot that went wide. Marcus scrambled under the jet, using its bulk as cover. He had to get to the hangar. He had to find proof. He burst through a side door into the dimly lit hangar and froze. It wasn't empty. Dozens of people in orange jumpsuits, the cargo, were being processed by armed guards. Their wrists were being tagged like livestock. He saw Judge Henderson, now in a jumpsuit himself, being shoved into a line. The system was consuming its own. A hand grabbed Marcus's arm from the shadows. He spun, ready to fight. It was Officer Miller, but the smugness was gone, replaced by raw fear. Thorne, they're going to kill us all once we're airborne. The plane's not going to some foreign country. It's going to be lost over the ocean. A clean sweep. Miller had been a pawn who realized too late. He was disposable. The manifest, Marcus hissed. Is there a copy? A digital record? Miller nodded frantically, pointing to a small office in the corner. In there, on the computer. It's linked to a satellite server, but the system is air-gapped. You can't transmit from here. They move like ghosts through the shadows. Inside the office, Marcus found a computer. The file was open. Project Longbow Final Transfer. It contained names, biometric data, and buyer nations. It was an international crime of unimaginable scale. But Miller was right. No internet connection. He couldn't send it. He pulled a small, high-capacity USB drive from a hidden compartment in his belt. Standard FBI issue for evidence collection. He plugged it in. The file started to copy. 5%, 10%. Suddenly, the hangar lights flashed red. An alarm blared. Breach. Hangar 12B. They'd been discovered. They're coming, Miller whispered, peering out the door. There's too many. The file copy hit 45%. They were out of time. Miller looked at Marcus, a strange calm settling over him. I got you into this, he said. Let me get you out. Before Marcus could stop him, Miller ran out of the office, shouting, He's in here. I found him, drawing the guards away. Gunfire erupted. Marcus heard Miller cry out. The file copy hit 100%. Marcus yanked the drive, his heart a drum of grief and fury. He slipped out the back of the office as the guards converged on Miller's location. He had the evidence. But he was still trapped in a locked hangar full of armed men. Crouched behind a stack of cargo containers, Marcus saw his only chance. A service hatch leading to the roof. From there, he might get a signal, might transmit the file. He was about to move when the hangar's main entrance began to rumble open. A new vehicle entered. Not a van or SUV. A long, black limousine. The armed guard snapped to attention. The limousine door opened. A polished shoe stepped onto the concrete. Standing there, cool and composed, was Deputy Director Roberts. He wasn't here to rescue anyone. He was here to oversee the shipment. And his eyes scanned the hangar. Knowing Marcus was hiding somewhere inside, he spoke into the radio. Find Thorne. The buyer has requested he be delivered alive. The limousine door closes with a soft, expensive thud, then the sound of a rifle being cocked very close by. Roberts' cold, calm face as he surveys the operation. Marcus, hidden in shadows, clutching the USB drive like a lifeline. A guard's boot steps into the frame near his hiding spot. He has the proof to bring down the entire system. But the system's architect is in the room. And he's not for sale. He's the main event. A rifle bolt cocks, the click echoing in the silent hangar. Then a single, tense piano note hangs in the air. The hunter is now the hunted. The USB drive feels like a live grenade in his hand. His former boss is the auctioneer. And Agent Marcus Thorne has one last move left. A move that could get everyone in this hangar killed. The guard's boot stepped closer. Marcus held his breath, pressing himself deeper into the shadows. He couldn't fight his way out. Not against dozens of armed men. He had to think like the criminal they thought he was. He saw it. A forklift parked nearby. Keys dangling from the ignition. A distraction. As the guard turned his back, Marcus moved like a phantom. He slid the USB drive into a small, magnetic case and slapped it underneath the forklift's chassis. The evidence was safe. For now. Then he stood up, hands raised. Don't shoot. I give up. The guard swarmed him, slamming him against a crate. Roberts walked over, a smug smile plastered on his face. The prodigal agent returns. The buyer will be very pleased. Your field experience is unique. Marcus was dragged toward the jet, past lines of terrified, tag people. He made eye contact with Judge Henderson, whose arrogance had been replaced by pure terror. They were all equals now. Cargo. As he was forced up the stairs, he noticed something the guards had missed. The jet's external maintenance panel, near the fuel intake, was slightly ajar. A reckless, suicidal idea began to form. He was shoved into a plush leather seat and cuffed to the armrest. Robert sat across from him, sipping a glass of whiskey as the jet's engines whined to life. It's nothing personal, Marcus. It's just the evolution of justice. Privatized, efficient, and very, very profitable. The plane began to taxi. This was it. Marcus had one chance. He started to slump in his seat, faking a seizure. He gagged, convulsed, and slid partially onto the floor, his body blocking the view of his cuffed hand. What's wrong with him? A guard barked. As Roberts leaned forward, annoyed, Marcus used a moment of confusion to work his hand free. Years of escape training paid off. With a subtle twist and a dislocated thumb, his hand slipped out of the cuff. He stayed on the floor, feigning unconsciousness. The guards loosened, thinking the threat was over. As the jet accelerated down the runway, Marcus made his move. He lunged for the emergency exit door, his dislocated thumb screaming in pain. "Stop him," Roberts yelled, but it was too late. Marcus pulled the emergency lever. A deafening roar filled the cabin as the door was ripped away. The plane was still low, climbing rapidly. Oxygen masks dropped. Amid the chaos, Marcus didn't jump. He reached out, grabbing the wing's edge. He pulled himself out, the wind threatening to tear him away. He scrambled toward the open maintenance panel he'd spotted earlier. He reached inside, his fingers finding what he hoped was there, the fuel line emergency shut-off valve. He twisted it with all his remaining strength. The engine sputtered, then died. The jet, now a giant glider, lost power and altitude. Alarms blared inside. Marcus held on for dear life as the plane veered sharply, heading back toward the airfield. He saw the hangar, the running figures on the ground. They were going to crash. He had to jump. He let go. The ground rushed up to meet him. He hit the grassy field at the edge of the tarmac, the impact knocking the wind out of him. Bones cracked. Agony exploded through his body. He looked up, dazed. The jet skidded off the runway in a shower of sparks, coming to a grinding halt against an empty fuel truck. Silence. Then screams from the wreckage. Marcus tried to move, but his leg was bent at a sickening angle. He was helpless. Through his blurred vision, he saw a figure emerge from the wrecked plane. It was Roberts, bloody but alive, clutching a briefcase. He staggered away from the crash, toward a waiting motorcycle. But before he could reach it, a black SUV screeched to a halt between them. The door opened. Standing there, holding a badge, was Sarah, his tech analyst. But she wasn't looking at Roberts. She was looking directly at Marcus, her expression cold and unreadable. She raised a radio to her lips. "The package is secure. The asset is down, awaiting further instructions." The sound of a helicopter approaching. Sarah's face, devoid of its usual warmth, looking down at Marcus. Roberts froze in his tracks. The wrecked jet burning in the background. He crashed the plane. He stopped the auction. But the woman he trusted with his life was running the entire operation.